actually in the screen?
Yep, you're right in the bullseye middle. And it's recording. Don't worry.
Come on.
But you're not smiling.
Oh, I'm not ready to shoot yet. Hey there, everyone. FG back again. We're out in the driveway doing some routine maintenance today, doing an oil change. And I think last year I had showed everybody the armor plating that I had installed for off-road protection of, well, the engine and everything else. But that does have its own drawbacks. It makes routine servicing a whole lot more difficult. Let me see if I can get a view up inside there. And pardon the camera bounce. Anyway, come back over here. Alright, so here's the old filter that came off. And if you've worked on this Nissan engine, you'll know that pretty much the only way to get this thing loose is with one of these. I tried a strap wrench and there was absolutely no way that was going to work. It's just far too tight in there. So I took that out. So the old filter came off pretty easy once I was able to reach up inside there. And this is the new one. I'm using a K&N Gold. And this one has a nut on the end. Now don't use this nut to tighten this ever, because I've heard of people having leaks by using this nut. This is designed to remove the filter, not to install it. You should be installing it by hand. Here's the old filter. And without setting it in the dirty oil, I'm going to put these next to each other, and you can see that this is about pretty close to 50% more filter media. And these are rated for 10 micron filtration. I have no idea what the Valvoline filter is, but these are not a whole lot more expensive. They are, I believe, about $10 a piece if I remember correctly. And for peace of mind and safety of the engine, it's definitely worth it. So little tip when you're putting these on, if you look at the end here, you may not be able to see it clearly, but I took and dipped my finger in some of the fresh motor oil that I'm going to be putting in, since you have to open a quart bottle anyway, because the engine takes 5.4, I believe was the official rating. So you're going to have to open one anyway. You always want to make sure that you lubricate the O-ring of anything that you're reinstalling with whatever material it's actually going to be sealing with. So with motor oil, use motor oil. With hydraulic lines, hydraulic fluid, etc., etc. Obviously, it's pretty obvious. And so I'm going to go ahead and install this now. Yeah, just a tip: don't ever pull these straight out of the box, and just go ahead and just wind them on without lubricating the O-ring first. It may work quite perfectly. I mean, I'm sure that people do it, but it is definitely not recommended. You want to make sure that O-ring slides smoothly as you're tightening it up to prevent any leaks. And I'll be back in a few minutes to talk about the Fumoto drain ball valve, and the idea that I was going to use some plastic tubing to make a nice neat little drainage straight into my drain pan, which now doesn't look like it's going to be anywhere near as easy as I had expected, because the outlet of the drain valve is pointing in a direction that's going to be very difficult to deal with. And I'm now at the point where I'm thinking that maybe that Fumoto wasn't such a great idea. I'm going to have to figure out what to do next. But like I'd said in earlier videos, I'm not afraid to admit when I made a mistake, and this may have been a mistake. It's one of those things that you engineer something, and then sometimes you end up engineering it again, or 2 more times, or 3 more times. Anyway, we'll see how it comes out. Back to you soon. Fast postscript on the filter before I get to the next part. You'll see that I drew a black line here. A filter is only supposed to be tightened down to hand to where it actually contacts the engine, and then 1/2 of a revolution more. You do not want to get in there with a wrench and start going crazy on this thing thinking that tighter is better. That's actually not the truth. If you tighten it down too hard, you'll actually make the O-ring leak, which is going to obviously be much, much worse. So I put this big line on here with a black Sharpie right through where the hole is in the nut here, which is actually for a safety wire if you're using it on a race car engine or something of that nature. Most street engines don't have a wire on them, and I've never seen any necessity for that, so I'm not going to in this particular case, but that's what that little hole's for. So anyway, as I mentioned, I marked this on here. I'm going to spin that on and then see where the line ends up, and then give it enough of a twist that it turns 1/2 more revolution and stops. So this gives me a nice, very easy to see black against white indicator of what my current position is, so that I can get that tightening torque correct. Back to the Fumoto in a minute. Hi, also wrapping up this video and this project for the day. The Fumoto drain valve. Yeah, that turned out to be quite an interesting little story. I wasn't able to get a tube really to attach to that. I ended up leaving the skid plate in place, just opening the valve and putting a large tray underneath. And yeah, I know probably some of you are cringing already, and I didn't love the idea myself. I really didn't. So now the top of the plate's got some oil on it. I guess it'll keep it from corroding at least anyway. It's aluminum, so it's not really going to rust, but aluminum does still corrode in other ways. Anyway, I was able to capture the oil that did drain out, and so it didn't end up all over the ground in a giant mess, but it was definitely a lot less than desirable. And I found out after the fact that there is a plastic fitting that Fumoto manufactures that fits into the end of that valve, which then allows a piece of plastic tubing to connect to it. I had the plastic tubing in my hand, but didn't know that there was a little piece in between that was necessary. Like I said, that was something that came to light, at least to my attention, afterwards. So oil change is all done, all wrapped up, everything went well. Truck drives fine. I think it may be a little quieter. I did get a little bit of rattle on first startup, which I certainly expected because the oil filter was completely empty. But after that filled, I think it likes the Castrol Edge titanium. It seems to be, like I said, it might be one of those things where you think you've done something and your brain's tricking you, but I don't know. Anyway, all good on that front, and I went ahead and ordered one of those plastic fittings to see if I can get that to match up to the valve well. It is really difficult to access the end of the Fumoto valve itself through the hole in the skid plate. So the next time that oil is due, I know a lot of people say that you should change your oil every 6 months, whether the vehicle really ever hits its mileage or not. I don't really subscribe to that. I mean, I know some people probably would, just because they're being super cautious. With modern full synthetic oils, I really don't find that necessary. So if I end up changing the oil once a year, the truck only saw 6,000 miles in the past 12 months. So I wasn't really feeling too antsy or anxious about that. I'm probably going to drop all the pans at the next change and go through and just check everything underneath. Probably do some more painting up on the frame rails with more of the rust treatment paint, because I did notice that there's surface corrosion. Nothing really concerning as far as actual structural type of thing, but just surface, and I wasn't liking how that looked. On one of the previous videos that I had done, I showed the rear leaf spring area, and I had painted a lot of that while I was underneath. So again, more of a preventive maintenance measure kind of thing. Going to get in there, clean all that up, and see what I need to do as far as being able to more cleanly and effectively be able to use that Fumoto valve. Otherwise, I'm probably going to end up removing it. I'm just going to have to see how that works, but it is something I'm going to have to go back and re-engineer a little bit. So we'll see how all that shakes out. But until next time, hey, still a big world out there. Go out and get her muddy. Until next time, FG out.